Hi, this is Charlie, and you're listening to the Bleeding Metal podcast.
Yes, we finally caught up with As Everything Unfolds live here in Karlsruhe, and it was a great show. Did you have fun, Charlie?
I did. It was very warm, but I had fun.
Indeed, the summer is finally coming. Thank you so much for seeing me.
No worries, thank you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bleeding Metal podcast. My name is Pia, she, her. I am your host here, and as always, I think I didn't do an episode without you. Welcome, Kiki. Hello.
Hi there. I'm Kiki. My pronouns are also she, her, and yeah, I don't think we have done solo episodes since the relaunch.
You did one with Sebastian, because I was ill that day and we couldn't figure out a date to record it later. But that was the only one, I think.
Nice. Good job,
yes.
us. But we also have a guest today.
Yes, today we have another guest. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Charlie from As Everything Unfolds, and my pronouns are also she, her.
Hello, welcome. We want to talk with you about several things. First of all, your band, As Everything Unfolds, just released the second album that is called Ultraviolet, and release date was 21st of April, right?
It was, yes, yeah.
Just a few weeks ago. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's all gone very quickly, I'll be honest with you. I think it was such a big build-up, and now it's kind of happened. I'm sort of like, it's all been a bit of a blur.
Right. And how have you been? Last time we had you on the podcast before said relaunch in March 2021. How has the band life been treating you?
Oh no, it's been good. Like, we've been touring a lot, especially in like Germany and sort of Central Europe and stuff like that. And it's been really good. I think just being able to get out there and actually play the songs after having, such a long break during COVID. We released our album kind of in a weird time. So we didn't get to play a lot of the songs until sort of recently, as we're now sort of getting into the touring circuit again. So yeah, it's been really good. I mean, we're back out again on Wednesday, back out to Germany for 3 weeks with CALLEJON. So yeah, it's busy. And then we're sort of, summer's not as busy, which is actually quite nice. And then we're picking it back up at the end of the year again.
Yeah, cool. And I think your band also caught more and more attention by the people out there, not only in UK, but also around the world, at least in Europe.
Yeah. I mean, I think our top listening country, especially on Spotify, is the USA, then it's Germany, and then it's the UK. So it's so actually we just like playing in Germany, and people are much more up for a good time than they are in the UK, I'll be honest with you.
Really?
I think people in the UK just love crossing their arms and standing at the back of the room and being boring.
Honestly, I was going to ask, because I would have said Germans are really difficult to hype up, like at concerts.
They're really, what we love about them is that they're always like brutally honest with you, but we love it. Like, if people, they'll be like, oh, your sound wasn't very good tonight, and we're like, do you know what, I'm kind of glad you said something. Whereas in the UK, everyone's too polite. They'll be like, oh, you sounded great, and actually we sounded fucking terrible. Mm-hmm. So we actually love it.
I think we in Germany, we missed concerts and festivals a lot because we had very high restrictions. We had to wait very, very long time until concerts were possible again. And the first concerts and festivals that happened, you had to wear a mask. There were only a few people allowed and stuff like that. So restrictions were very, very high. And so now that they're gone, people are kind of freaking out again, I think.
Yeah, I think people are just realizing how much they've missed it. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people didn't, and myself included, playing shows, I took it for granted so much. we played a show every 2 weeks, and then you suddenly went into this, oh my God, I'm at home and I don't know what to do with myself. I can't see my friends. I can't play shows. And now even when we play like, little shows in the, middle of nowhere, we just sort of make the most of it every time we do.
Yeah, awesome.
That's great. That's the best attitude, yeah. And going a little into our topic for today, I wanted to ask you, last time you were here on our show, and you said something that impacted me a lot, and that I at least have been quoting a few times, when you said that you weren't totally comfortable with wearing dresses on stage as a woman in metal. And that really made an impact on me, and how it's so annoying that we still have to think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's 2023. But if I've seen correctly on your videos, you have done that now.
Yeah. I think I'm just, as I grow as a person and as I get older, and, you kind of become more aware of your kind of self and what you feel comfortable in. And I've just sort of just gone, no, this is what I feel good in. This is what I feel confident and comfortable in. And there's actually a company called Lazy Girl Club who make like dresses for me as well, like so custom dresses. So I've got like checkerboard dresses, and she's really good. And it's all like, it's a female run company. It's like slow fashion, and so I really like that aspect of it as well. But it makes me feel like, oh, okay, well, this dress is like my own identity as well. So and I've got dresses with like that are just a bit more me, and I feel like it does make me just feel more comfortable. You've always got my DM boots on, and I kind of mix it up a little bit. But yeah, it's I've kind of pushed through that, like you said about being uncomfortable about it, and I'm sort of like, no, I don't care what people think. This is what I want to wear and what I feel comfortable in.
That's amazing.
We should definitely link to them in the show notes, because that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I was just writing the name down.
Yeah. No, she'd really appreciate it as well, and what she does like upcycled stuff, so you can send like an old band shirt and she'll make it into a dress for you. It's very cool.
So cool. That is totally up our alley. We love that.
Right now I'm thinking about which band shirts I could let her turn into.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's really cool. That was my follow-up to that. What helped you get more comfortable? What changed your mind? I can relate a lot to what you're saying. Yeah, we grow as people, and we get more comfortable with some things, and we deconstruct also a lot of all those myths, social myths that we have been, just seeing and being fed up on for so many years. So all of that helps a lot. But that is also the purpose of fashion to some degree, to give you empowerment in your own identity, right? And you do you, and the better you feel as yourself, the more comfortable you feel in your own skin, the better performance you will give as well for all the fans, right? So it's just really good to see that you've gotten that far as well.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes a difference. I definitely give better performances when I feel more comfortable.
That's awesome. And that leads me to the main question of today. Yeah, let's go there. We talked about your new album, Ultraviolet, a few episodes ago, 2 episodes ago. It was a little bit of a change from what we had before that, from your debut album, especially in the lyrics. Before that, I had already, before you even announced the release date for your second album, I was already thinking that we should bring you back on the show, because the more I listened to the lyrics in Within Each Lies the Other, that I could really relate to, that I really interpreted as vulnerable moments of you, maybe not only you, of course, but you as a band, discussing or debating mental health stuff like self-worth, stuff about depression. When I relapsed into depression last year, and to listen to your take on that, "Stranger in the Mirror" was a song that I could really relate to. in those moments. And of course it helps, right? It helps to feel less alone. It helps to feel how all of this pain even sometimes can flourish and blossom into art so nicely. So my first question, of course, is, does that resonate with you? Was that something you were doing consciously to bring mental health topics into your creativity and into your lyrics?
I think, like more through personal experience. I write so much from like my perspective, but I do try to make it open enough that other people can put themselves into the shoes of what I'm writing as myself, but other people can be like, oh yeah, I totally understand that. I totally know how that feels. So it is a sense of like, I'm trying to make it accessible to everyone, because I know that other people feel exactly the same as I did at that point. So yeah, it was kind of accidental, but also deliberate. Okay. So, it was kind of, I didn't intend to write it for that purpose, but I know that it has that purpose in the end.
And is it something that helps you, writing lyrics and creating music, does that help you process, I don't know, life's teachings, life's ups and downs?
Yeah, like especially the first album, I think at that time it especially was that did help me get through what was happening then and whatever. And I think, in hindsight, I sort of look back and I'm like, oh my God, like Christ, what was I going through? but no, it's it's good to kind of look back at that as well and look how much I've grown as well. Mm-hmm. So, because obviously for me, it's like diary entries almost, because it's like what I have written, and I can sort of look back in hindsight and observe what's happened. But yeah, I think, it's a weird one.
Does it maybe feel like a form of therapy?
Yeah, I think so, a little bit. Like not completely, I think, because obviously you have to dredge up like lots of feelings sometimes to kind of find the words to say. But yes, in some ways it's kind of, it's quite cathartic to battle things like that within yourself and be open about them.
Yeah. And that is something that I think is not really easy, to be that vulnerable and to put all those vulnerabilities out there for everybody to take part in. But it's also very beautiful to share that from both perspectives. As the person receiving those lyrics and those messages, it's really beautiful that you can share that with your listeners, with your audience.
And now for the second album, you combined two of your passions, I think. When I remember correctly, you are also teaching something with photography.
Yeah, I was working at a school as like an art photography teacher and technician, and I did a degree in photography, and I did like a lot of traditional photography, so like darkroom and film and all that kind of stuff. And I've always been kind of fascinated by like just the kind of metaphorical things you can kind of bring from it. And it's like, for me, like music and my art are kind of like, and my passions for that are kind of very parallel. Like I like them both the same. It's just music has just kind of taken the main path at the moment, just because it's so busy. But I generally do. I've always thought I'd like to bring in what I love from my other passion into my music, not just, the art and stuff, because obviously I'm very involved in the video process, the photos, the, the artwork, all the graphics for, online, all that kind of stuff. But that's all kind of very corporate things. And I wanted to kind of bring in like the genuine art and conceptual side of it. So I sort of came up with this idea of like, well, so when you're in a dark room and you're printing color, you have to print in complete darkness and you have to expose through ultraviolet light to see life in full color. So that was kind of like the metaphor that I kind of used for like the whole album, and the kind of overarching concept that kind of ties everything together. So even though every song kind of has its own thing going on, it's kind of this bracket of, that's kind of the overarching theme.
That is really beautiful. It feels like it's a really profound metaphor as well.
Yeah.
Even though some of the lyrics feel a little more on the surface of things. But just to know that that was the lens through which you were presenting your thoughts this time is really beautiful.
Yeah, I think it was a very different album lyrically to the first one. I'm very aware that like I've not gone as deep into like my own psyche and my own thoughts, but actually that was kind of deliberate. I think I'm in a better place. I wasn't interested in going backwards and dealing with all the things I'd already dealt with again, because I'm thinking, well, that's gone. That's something I don't need to do, write about again.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of the songs were written actually more from not a positive perspective, but, things are going well for us. I'm experiencing loads of good things in my life, and I'm sort of like I said, I was bringing in my art and stuff like that. And although I am still touching on subjects that are, people can sort of, again, put themselves in, generally it's more kind of on the surface conceptual kind of stuff.
I work as a journalist, and I also take pictures for my reports and stuff like that. And at university, there were also journalists who were in regions where there is war at the moment, and who also took pictures there. And they told us a lot about that. And they said, and I can relate to that when they take photos, they feel a kind of distance to what they are photographing. You know what I mean? So that you are far away.
Yeah, you're quite detached from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have the same feeling when you take photos, or is it different for you?
It's actually the opposite, I think, for me, because a lot of my work was very like, not so much personal, but I would have to put a lot of personal time into researching. I would do a lot of like conceptual landscape photography, which was kind of like I'd go to places and research stories, and so I'd take photographs of what seems like a mundane thing. So like it would just be like a plain field, for example, but underneath that is like a really deep story of something that's happened there. So like whether it be historical, or I delved into a lot of like folklore and stuff like that, so like UK folklore and things like that. So it's, again, but that kind of ties into like what I'm doing about like, even with the album, it's like, on the surface it kind of seems quite, oh, these are quite boring, whatever lyrics, or these are quite surface level. And but actually underneath it's kind of like it's all about this kind of overarching photography kind of concept.
So you have given us homework now to go and read between the lines.
Yeah, it's kind of like I think it is more like subtle. It's kind of, it's just more about viewing life from a different, like, it's really hard to explain. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. So like, yeah, it's just like to see life in full color, which I think is something that I'm starting to now see. I had to expose everything through the ultraviolet light spectrum, and like you would in a dark room. And I think, yeah, it just worked for how I felt, and what I felt worked with the lyrics and everything.
That's great. And I think that is also that's a process that we need to do, that we as humans all need to do constantly, to look at our life not only from our own perspective, but to have a different perspective, and everybody else's too. We are on this podcast, on the Bleeding Metal podcast, we keep talking about other identities, other realities, and those are lenses through which we need to see the world as well, to put ourselves in others' shoes, to see life through people with less privileges, less rights even sometimes than us, so that we can understand where they come from and why it's important to keep fighting for a fairer world, for a world with more equity, equanimity, equality. And also in the personal life, I think it's really important not to, just like you were saying, not to sometimes let yourself sink in the negativity or in a specific experience that has had an impact on you, but also to see how that how that experience helps you grow and to see all of the other sides.
Mm-hmm.
To what Pia was saying, it reminded me about the detaching yourself. That is also like the principle of meditation, to see your emotions pass and not be captivated by one and to go in the sadness or in the anger, but also see your emotions are as valid and just let them flow and experience them, but not get captured in those moments. It also reminded me of a moment in therapy recently when my therapist, we do, because my therapist is also from Ecuador, so we do therapy in Spanish, and all of a sudden he also sometimes it's Spanglish, and at a specific point he said something in English, and later I was thinking, why did he do that? He could have easily said the same thing in Spanish, but then I thought, okay, because the language also acts as a buffer.
Mm-hmm.
and then saying something that might have otherwise been too direct to me, it made it it gave it a little cushioning so that I could process things better, and it actually helped.
No, that's very interesting, actually.
And we have like all of these different tools to do that. For me, it has also been sometimes easier to express difficult feelings in other languages than Spanish. Spanish being my native language. And when I speak in English, I not only have more words that more people understand, but also I have this little bit of distance to be able to be more vulnerable if I decide to. So it's really nice to hear your take on it. That it's this visual and colorful that blows my mind. It's this this completely different lens through which you have chosen to express yourself this time, and it's a beautiful tool as well. Now that you are at this different moment in your life, and that you have released a new piece of art to the world, and you're on tour with both albums, though, right? Because I haven't seen your set list yet, and I still have yet to go to one of As Everything Unfolds' concerts.
Yeah, we're sort of playing like a good mix of both. I think we're sort of playing, the singles or the songs that are like the most popular off both, because you don't just want to play all songs off the new album because some people might not have listened to it yet. So it's or they might not be as big of a fan of that one, or the other way round, or so we always like to kind of mix it up a little bit.
And how does it feel now to perform the older, darker, quote unquote, songs, now that you have outgrown some of those topics?
I think I just sort of it sounds bad, but I think because I don't want to kind of put myself back there, you just sort of breeze through it, and I just sort of sing it like you would any other person's song, I think, because I don't relate to it as much anymore. I just kind of sing it in a different way. And actually, I find myself being a lot more positive about singing it. Sometimes, I'm sort of putting inflections on it that are more sort of joyful, and just because I'm sort of enjoying the moment a bit more. And I think it kind of comes across in a way that people are like, oh, okay. Well, even though I'm sort of always changing it, I'm always sort of adjusting it for what we're doing and how I feel and stuff like that, which kind of gives it a sense of new personality every time.
You're making them new again. That's cool. That's really great.
I have another question about photography and music. Do you also mix them, or do you listen to a lot of music while taking pictures, or how do these two passions also affect on each other, or is there no connection at all?
I think when I'm editing, I'm always listening to music, but I don't think music entirely inspires my photography, and my photography doesn't really inspire my music. It's kind of that's why I wanted to deliberately join them, for this album. I was like, I want to bring them together to kind of give me something to work on as like a passion project as well as kind of, so this album is like, I feel very attached to it because it's something that was something I wanted to do because I wanted to be really attached to it, because I work better on art, music, anything like that when I am obsessed with it, basically. So I haven't before had anything that crossed over, but that's exactly what Ultraviolet was kind of made to be.
Was that something that you brought to the table of the band and everybody agreed, or how do you handle the teamwork?
So the boys are quite good. They kind of just let me like do my creative stuff. We kind of, as you go through and in a band, and when you've been together for this long, like, everybody kind of has like their jobs, within the band. We've got people that deal with the finances, we've got people that deal with the socials, and and stuff like that. And then I sort of do all the graphics and the artwork and the video concepts, and generally I don't think I've ever had pushback on anything. They're just sort of like, yeah, Charlie, that sounds really cool. So generally I'm just sort of allowed free reign. I always ask them, and I'm always respectful, and I always go, do you like this? Because I don't want to do it if you don't like it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're like, yeah, love it. So yeah, it's quite nice for me because I can kind of pursue most of the things I want to do visually, which is nice.
I love the new aesthetic, or the aesthetic of the new album rather, because the other one was also great. We didn't each like the other is also great.
But purple is your favorite color, right?
Exactly. That's why. Purple is my favorite color, so I liked it right away. Yeah.
Yeah, I also love the idea of combining the photography aspect and also what you just said with the colors come in the process of creating the picture, actually.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What does that mean for you emotionally, maybe?
Mm-hmm. So I think, like I said, because it's something I've always wanted to do, it's really satisfying for me to have done that finally and kind of brought that to the table. And it kind of sets a precedent for if I want to do it in the future as well. Like, I feel confident enough that I can bring it even more, make it even more sort of obvious, or I can get far more involved in the process, so things like the artwork are kind of done by a girl called Abby, but because she's amazing and she can almost see what's in my head when I tell her what I want. But I would like to potentially get like more involved where the artwork is completely designed by me, or videos are completely directed by myself, or so just kind of like delving deeper into it. So I think emotionally, I think it was just fulfilling to start bringing those two things together, something that I've always wanted to do. And I'm happy that I can now have the confidence to do it in the future, just to kind of like merge my passions and kind of make my degree worthwhile.
How much knowledge do you have, or are you gaining towards the filmmaking and the graphic design?
So I think because I've never done like I've never been a big video person. Like, doing photography, you delve into video a little bit, but I've never really found like the same love and passion in it that I did with like photography. But I've always sort of been fascinated by it, and I like that I am learning a lot. Like you said, it's sort of like I'm learning and I'm always watching, and when our videographers are working, I'm always sort of like working with them rather than sort of telling them what to do. I like to kind of collaborate with everybody I work with, because it makes me learn more. And the same with the graphic design. Like, me and Abby will get on a call like this and we will just chat and talk about things, and I think she can then pick up on little nuances and little things that she thinks, oh, okay, that'll be cool, so I think it's kind of, again, taught me like just talk personally to everybody you're working with, because it makes a better product as well.
Yes.
I remember last time we talked that you had a challenge in one of your music videos, that you were jumping into a fish tank.
Oh yeah, the water tank, yeah.
Yeah. Were there any challenges for the videos for the new album as well?
I think it was more financial challenge. This time round, we didn't have a lot. We sort of on this album, we really wanted to focus on the mix of the album and how good it. We wanted to kind of make it sound different to the first album because, again, it's a very different album altogether, and I think the mix had to complement that as well. So we spent more money on the mix this time. So we had less money for other stuff. But what we did is we kind of, instead of hiring venues, we actually built like a room in Jamie, our drummer's parents, like he's got like an outbuilding, a big shed. And so we actually built like, space in there that we could use to film our music video. So I think Ultraviolet and Flipside are filmed in that space, and then Felt Like Home was it was a bit of a last minute one because our label sort of were like, oh, we want to release this one first. And we're going, oh my God, we haven't got a video for it because we thought this was going to be one later on. So we had to kind of throw one together, and Adam was on holiday and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, right, I'm just going to have to be the only one in the music video, and it's going to have to be something really, really simple. So I think this time around the videos were like just a big challenge in terms of financial and just time pressures. So I think, again, next time I've got all these ideas in my head that I had from last time that I'm going to use for next time, hoping that we'll maybe have some more money.
Yeah, because the second album is also called the Make It or Break It album. So many bands split up after the second album. But now that you told us you have so many ideas, there is hope that that won't happen to you.
Oh yeah, we're already writing for like the next thing. So we're always sort of like one step ahead.
Yeah, perfect. You lost a band member, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we lost Owen, which we're all on good terms. He just sort of like, bought a house and just sort of stuff like that. He just sort of thought, I can't really commit to touring and stuff like that anymore. So, and it's all fine, we hang out quite a lot and we see him pretty regularly. I saw him last week. So, yeah, which is nice. It's sort of, worked out because he's happier, and we as a band, there's now 5 of us. So it's easier to manage with one less person. So, yeah, it's all worked out. Obviously, I miss him a lot, but it's worked out in hindsight.
But there are no plans to look for another guitar player?
Oh, no. It's easier just to have it on, like all the guitars on the backing track are played by Adam and they're recorded live. So they're not like from the album, but it's just when you're touring and stuff like that, just having one less person is just so much more convenient and cheaper. And, we're at the point where that's kind of, unfortunately, like a higher priority for us.
Yeah, that's a great idea to record them live for the backing track and not just use the stuff from the album. That's pretty smart.
Yeah. So he just sat and like recorded it as, if he was playing the whole set. So it is technically a live, because it's not edited or anything. It's technically a live guitar. It's just recorded.
Wow. Yeah, and when you're looking for a new band member, what you're not doing, but if you would do that, it's also difficult to find someone who shares the same vision of music with you, and the personalities have to fit and stuff like that. So it's not like, oh, we know someone who can play the guitar, let's put him in the band. There is much more to that. Yeah,
and I think because we've all been a band since the beginning, all of us. Well, Jamie came in a bit later, but since we've started doing things properly, we've been the same people. So I think it would be, we're not kind of against it in the future, but I think it would be weird now to bring somebody in. And I just think for us, it didn't feel like the right thing to do. We were just like, no, we're happy. We can function as we are. And, as the music's progressing, actually, like John on the synths is taking more of a lead role musically. So a lot of the kind of lead lines are actually done by the synth, and then the guitar is like the kind of underlying thing. So actually having 2 guitars would actually not really make that much sense.
Yeah, I noticed that because especially in Felt Like Home, the keyboard sounds a lot like German Schlager.
No, I think we're definitely like more into like the electronic stuff. I mean, all of us collectively, like we're not we're not really metal fans. Like, you know, we don't listen to metal. Like, I mean, there might be the occasional song that will be like, oh, this is really good. Like, but it has to be like really stand out for us. Like, and I think we were all brought up on such a wide range of music. Like, I didn't even know who Iron Maiden were till I was like 16. Like, I had no idea. So for me, I was kind of like brought up on a lot of like club music and like, you know, like, so for me, like the electronic element is kind of more what I sort of, you know, attach myself to and relate to. And I think it goes for a lot of the boys as well. We listen to such a weird array of music these days and not a lot of metal, and I think it's just that's sort of coming across in our music, but we always like to have heavy elements in it. But I think as a band we're not inherently like a metal band, we're just a rock band that does some heavy stuff but mainly electronic-y.
That's great. That makes the music even richer.
Mm-hmm.
That it just I love combinations of stuff. I love when it's not just the same things over and over again, but it's crossovers of styles and just making something new and especially making it your own.
I think we always try to like write a bit of everything, and like, you know, we're sort of, and then we'll try and merge it all together, because the songs that we like the most are kind of the ones that have a bit of everything in it. And I think, you know, like Ultraviolet is a good example. Like, it's kind of got the heavy bits, you know, those kind of breakdowny bits, but then like the really soft, floaty verses with the nice like underlying synths and stuff like that, and then catchy choruses and stuff like that. So, you know, we're kind of trying to master that as we go forward, because I think for us that's the songs that we enjoy, but also I think they're the songs that do the best, because I think people like that about us. I think they like the fact that we do a bit of everything. They can kind of listen to it and get 5 songs worth of things in one.
Yes. And talking about the new album, I also liked Infrared a lot, the instrumental interlude, as I like to call it. It's really cool.
That was something we'd not done an interlude before. I mean, it was kind of not a last minute thing, but we kind of were like, oh, you know, we really want Flipside to be on the turnover on the vinyl. So we were sort of thinking like, oh, okay, like I think the way that song comes in as well, like it needs an ending of the first half and a beginning of the second half. So that Infrared was kind of what came out of that. And all of the samples in it are samples that I created myself in the darkroom. So all of the noises, so all the clicking, the paper, the cameras, everything like that was just recorded like by me in a darkroom. So, and again, that song specifically kind of ties the concept in big time, because it's, you know, literal sounds of a darkroom. Yes. And, you know, water running in the darkroom and paper being put in the chemicals and stuff like that. And yeah, so it was kind of like, it kind of worked quite nicely, because it allowed me to express that side of it without actually vocalizing it. So it was expressing the concept through samples and sounds rather than through words. And then it musically then allowed the second half of the album to kind of feel more kind of like, oh, right, we're starting now, Flipside's kicking off.
Right. That is so cool. I have a very clear visual of everything that you are describing, especially because my best friend is a photographer as well, and she also has always liked analog photography and has had a lot to do with dark rooms and developing film and all of that. And I have really enjoyed to see all those processes throughout my life. And going back to your video or filmmaking ambitions that I find amazing, would you consider offering music video making as a service to other bands, making that part of your profession as well, maybe?
I think maybe in the future, like if I had loads of ideas that I know didn't work for us, then maybe that would be something that I would love to do. I mean, I have thought about it. I've started doing graphic design for other bands, so I have sort of started branching out in that first. And I'm thinking, you know, maybe naturally as a progression, that will be what comes out of it. Because I think, the graphic design stuff, it's, there's a lot of younger bands like we're friends with, and, they can't afford like these really expensive graphic designs. And I'm like, look, I'll give me X amount of money and I'll do it for you. Like, because I know how hard it is to try and find someone. And I'm, at the moment, I'm kind of only doing it for bands and people that I know. But it's just nice to kind of, express myself, not for my own band as well, which is, again, something that I've not really done. But I've only started in the sort of last few months. So maybe it will progress.
Right. And there we go again with the putting yourself in other person's shoes, right? Can you name drop a few of the bands you've done graphic work for?
Jamie, in As Everything Unfolds, the drummer, he actually manages a few bands. So it's kind of like his band. So there's a band called Aramea, which is a female-fronted kind of new metal kind of band. They're really cool. And then he had another band called This Dying Hour. I've done a couple of bits for here and there. So it's kind of like very small at the moment, like who I've done stuff for. But I'm going to start sort of once I've actually found the time to put together like a little portfolio, I'm going to try and then put it out there and be like, oh, this is what I do on the side. If you want to hit me up.
Yeah, that would be great. And whenever you have that link for us, we would love to put that in the description of this episode so that people can look what you can do and hit you up for that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yes. Going back to the topic of the episode. Well, we've talked about so many things. I'm gonna have trouble naming this episode. But how do you take care of your mental health apart from processing it through your art and your creative work?
I think trying to keep myself busy, which is really hard when, especially because I had to leave my job at the school and I'm kind of at home a lot, and I'm, trying to find jobs like, small little graphic jobs and whatever, and photography. And it's, I'm just trying to sort of like find things to do to keep, because as soon as I'm idle, that's when I get bad. So, when I'm out on tour, I love it because I don't have to think about it, because I'm always busy and I'm constantly talking to people, around people, having a good time. It's just constantly moving. Whereas and then I think that does make it worse when you come home, because when you come home, you're just sort of like sat, by yourself, and you're like, oh God, what do I do now? Like, and you sort of put something on Netflix and you're like, this is really boring. Like real life becomes quite boring. And although for the first day I'm like, oh, I love it, I'm so glad I'm home. I think the day after that, you sort of start to go, oh, nothing's happening today either. And it's kind of, so it gets harder kind of trying to deal with that. But I think just, trying to keep myself busy, just doing things, even if it's just playing a video game sometimes for like an hour, I'll just be like, okay, well, I'm just going to do that for an hour, like, because I can't do nothing. Because if my mind is idle, then that's not good.
Right. And nowadays there are amazing video games. We are two big gamers here as well. And I have also found that I play a variety of games, and sometimes just chill games that, that have different tasks that you just have to follow can be really soothing. And otherwise, just going in there and shooting at creatures is also very soothing.
It depends what mood, because I had a game called Unpacking.
Right.
It was like the Zen game kind of thing. And you would just put things in places, you would unpack the boxes. And it was so stupidly simple, but it was like really nice and therapeutic to kind of do it. But then I'll play like, Skyrim and all that kind of stuff, like kill all the goblins and whatever. So
what are you playing at the moment?
I'm Disney Dreamlight Valley is my thing at the moment. I'm sort of just not really playing much. I do sort of dabble in 7 Days to Die on the PC, because I've been playing that for quite a few years. So it's one of those things I'm like, oh, I'm too deep into it now, I have to keep going. So but I sort of just play like on my Switch a lot, because when we're traveling,
right,
that's kind of what I tend to play on. So it's more just like casual gaming stuff. And I've only got a PS4. I haven't upgraded to a PS5 yet. So
cool. That's why games like Power Wash Simulator are so popular. When you would think, why would be cleaning or tidying up? It's such a tedious chore in real life. How can it be soothing when it's in a video game?
Yeah,
But it
it's
works.
really weird.
Yeah, but it works. That is really cool. Pia, what are you gaming at the moment?
I'm still into Forspoken because I really like the world and to discover everything. The story is really interesting because you come to a completely new world from our normal world. But the cool thing is you still have your smartphone. Of course, you can't use it, but you can take pictures.
That's funny.
And yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. I'm really slowly, so I just killed the first main enemy, but I already played for 30 hours or something. So yeah, slowly doing everything you can do because the world is really, really cool.
Yeah.
How about you?
That's so nice. I just recently finished The Outer Worlds.
Oh, okay.
I made a bit of a speed run. It took me several hours as well, but I just wanted to get the main story and showcase also on my Twitch stream this video game that was recommended to me because of the diversity of the characters. Most characters were female and people of color, and that was really, really cool because you're just, or it feels so natural and automatic to just, when it's an RPG like that, you go from vendor to vendor or character to character, and you just don't really notice who they are, or it doesn't really stand out who they are, right? But all of a sudden it's women and it's another woman in charge and it's another woman in charge, and it's like, hell yes, this is how games could be all the time. All of a sudden it's not weird anymore that you're just talking to women all the time. It's just cool.
Yeah.
And the humor of the game is really cool.
Yeah, I did play It Takes Two recently, which was a lot of fun.
Really cool too.
Yeah, it was one of those games I was sort of like, oh, it'll probably be quite fun, and I was like, I can't stop playing now. So we literally played the whole thing like in a weekend.
That's still on my bucket list. I want to play that with my husband.
Me and my boyfriend played it, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
I started playing that with a friend, but we never finished it because we couldn't schedule things because of time differences.
Oh.
I was playing it with one of my best friends from Ecuador, and a 7-hour time difference with busy working lives sometimes doesn't really help. Yes, but otherwise I've been really addicted to Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, the battle royale shooter with vampiric abilities. It's amazing. I've been playing that a little bit, at least almost every day for a few months. It's just really cool. I'm just a vampire freak. People out there can't look at my pajamas right now, but I'm wearing a hoodie that says I love vampires.
I did think, I was like, is that related to it? So, but no, as funny as a band, actually, just on topic of like things like that, we actually play Magic the Gathering quite a lot.
Wow.
When we're out on the road. So so it wastes a lot of time, like in the van, because we've got a table, so we'll sort of like somebody will duel somebody and then we'll swap over and stuff like that. So yeah, and then every time we go to like a city, John's like, oh, let's go to the nerd shop. So
That's so
it's
cool.
Yeah.
So people, when you want to meet as everything unfolds and they play in your town, go to the nerd store.
Check the nerd store.
Yeah, exactly. You might find them there.
But talking about your tour life, Charlie, what do you listen to when you're playing Magic the Gathering in the van?
We either jokingly play like the World of Warcraft like music in the background. Sometimes there's like a bit of a like joke, and the boys will be like over exaggerated, like, I lay my card, and we'll just sort of like play into the whole thing, or it's just silence, because you're like concentrating and you're trying to read the cards and understand what's going on. And but yeah, so generally it's either silly music or nothing.
And personally and or together as a band, what are you listening to at the moment?
I'm going to look on my playlist because I'm really bad at remembering what I've added. I know our friends in Vexed have recently released a new single. They are sort of like a deathcore, like heavy female-fronted band, and Megan is arguably one of the best screamers in the game. She is very good. They're on Napalm Records. They're releasing their second album, I think, this year. So their new single is really good. What else am I listening to? Holding Absence, always listening to them. Enter Shikari and Meet Me at the Altar as kind of like my kind of top listened things at the moment, I think.
Cool. Those are good recommendations. What about you, Pia?
I like the new single by Dying Wish a lot. It's called Torn From Your Silhouette. And I also saw them live, I think a week ago when they played in Leipzig, and they are really, really good on stage. So if you have the opportunity to see them, go there. And another band from Germany and Austria, it's a new band called Gestress. They just released their debut album, and that's a bit different from what I normally listen to. It's also a mix of different music styles, also metalcore, but also black metal elements. And they don't have two guitars. They have one guitar and a violin, but it's not like the violin in Eminence. It's more like the violin is the second guitar. So that's how I would describe that. So it sounds very special. I haven't heard that in another band before. And yeah, I'm really impressed by their sound.
Cool. I'm going to check that out.
Yay.
Oh, yes.
What are you listening to at the moment, Kiki?
I have been listening to Dayseeker a lot.
Again.
But also the Lovelorn Dolls just released a cover of Lullaby. The original is by The Cure.
I thought they don't exist anymore.
I think they're coming back. Now and then they release like a cover or a single. So I think they're coming back. But yes, Dying Wish. I just heard about the band on another podcast that I have been recommending forever, the Lead Singer Syndrome podcast. And Until Morning Comes, my favorite so far from Dying Wish. Really cool band indeed. I like their bio on Spotify the most, that they present themselves as an intersectional feminist band that fights for equal rights for all humans. And that was just like, yes, that's us, but as a band. We need to invite them over as well. Charlie, it's been so nice to talk to you again. I'm so glad to hear how well you're doing and how everything is going. So keep up the good work. The new album is really cool. We'll keep listening to it. And what else do you have going on?
So on Wednesday we're back out, like I said, in Germany, and I think we're doing a couple of headline shows as well in between the CALLEJON shows. So we're out there for like 3 weeks, I'm sure. And then we are back in the UK, and then we're sort of doing the occasional show here and there. We're doing 2,000 Trees in the UK. We're doing a couple of festivals, I think, out in Europe occasionally, like sort of, I can't remember the name of them. I'm a nightmare. And then in September, we've got 2 big headline shows in the UK, which is like our sort of, big sort of album release shows. And they're going to be the only 2 because we've actually got some other stuff that isn't announced yet, which I can't say, which is very cool, at the end of the year. So we are very, very busy, but it's nice that in summer we're sort of, because last year we were really busy in summer. Whereas this year we've actually got more of a free summer, so we can actually do some stuff, personal stuff as well. Like if I wanted to go away or something as well, which is nice. Yes. But then it picks up at the end of the year, so it's good. Yeah.
You could also go to festivals again.
Right idea.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm such a nightmare now. Like I won't go to anything unless we're playing now, because I'm just I turn up and I'm like, oh God, I have to use the normal toilets. I'm so bad because I'm just I'm not using the portaloos. I can't do it. You just get so used to not having to, do that. And I mean, if there was a band I really liked and I really wanted to see, then I would go. But I think you do just get a bit sort of jaded to it when you're sort of always like, you know, having backstage access and stuff.
Living the good rock star life.
Oh yeah.
That sounds good. We are going to link everything that we have mentioned here in the episode description. So follow the Bleeding Metal podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Wherever you're listening to this, tell your friends, check out everything that is mentioned and linked in the episode. And we'll see you next time. Charlie, thank you so much for everything. For sharing your art always, for being such a lovely interview guest, and for your time today.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you out there for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.